Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Muslim1, and today I'm coming at you with another Kingdom Hearts theory. So I know I touched on this topic in my video concerning the foretellers, so this is kind of a continuation of that, but it was something I got to thinking about recently after going through some stuff in the key back cover movie and Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. So we all know about the Master of Masters and how he's going to be set up as the next antagonist of Phase 2 in the Kingdom Hearts franchise. But aside from that, that's really all we know about him. We know next to nothing about his intentions or whether or not he actually wants to defeat the darkness or if he wants to control it for his own purposes. And now with the Master able to reality walk to the universe of Quadratum, we now need to figure out why and how the universe of Aram Rex fits into his plans. Now personally, I like his character and what he does because it's been a while since we've been this in the dark about a serious antagonist, and he's shaping up to be one of the more interesting characters in the series. From the charismatic performances of Ray Chase to him essentially always speaking in riddles, the Master of Masters is a very interesting character, almost as if he's never telling you what he wants you to do, but more setting things up so you come to that conclusion yourself, making you think you chose this, but in reality it was all carefully planned out by the Master of Masters. All the roles that were given by the Master of Masters were carefully picked to create tension in the group that would eventually lead to infighting and the first Keyblade War. And what puts the cherry on top of this mysterious character is thanks to his constantly changing personality, you never really know what's going on with him inside his head. And that's what actually led me to making this video, because we know that the Master of Masters is going to be the next antagonist of the series, but we don't really know what that means. What if the Master of Masters isn't actually evil? But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this theory, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on. We're starting our push to partner status, hopefully we can get partnered by the end of next year, and to do that I'm going to need your help. So if you know someone who would enjoy this or any of my other videos, why not go ahead and send it to them? It'd help me out a lot and I would really like to see this community grow. Speaking of which, if you want to talk to me or other Kingdom Hearts fans, make sure you join the Guardians of Twilight Discord or follow me on Twitter. Links will be down below in the description. So when I say the Master of Masters might not be evil, I mean it in a very specific way. I mean that the Master of Masters might be another Xehanort situation. Because like I said in the video about the foretellers, when we got introduced to the chess pieces in Kingdom Hearts 3 that showed which side a person was on with the Guardians of Light and the Seekers of Darkness, we learned that it was actually a lot more complex than we thought it was. We learned that some people who were considered Seekers of Darkness fought on the side of darkness but weren't actually evil. Like Larxene, she wasn't doing this because she felt the Keyblade needed to be formed or because she wanted to free Kingdom Hearts from Master Xehanort. She was honestly just following Marluxia like she told Sora before she was recompleted. Or with Saïx fighting against Axel, we found out that he was just in the organization to look for clues on Subject X and trying to figure out where she might have been. But the one I want to talk about the most, and you've probably guessed it by now, is Master Xehanort. Because we knew that he was a villain and the main antagonist, but he was only doing what he did to bring balance to light and darkness and stop the tyranny of light. And honestly, when that first happened in Kingdom Hearts when that was revealed, I was a little disappointed because it seemed like watching Xehanort go from this evil antagonist to misguided protagonist was a little off-putting, but it kind of grew on me over time. Because just like you have Master Eraqus, who was a misguided person on the side of light, you had Xehanort, who was just a misguided person on the side of darkness. And that's where we get to the Master of Masters. Because it could be possible that he wants to do the same thing that Xehanort wanted to do in the sense that he just wants to bring balance to both sides. Because throughout the Kingdom Hearts series, we've always seen examples of light is good and darkness is bad. But slowly but surely, we got examples that kind of show us that things aren't always what they seem and there's always another side to this. We got Eraqus in Birth by Sleep, who was supposed to be on the side of light, yet he still attempted to kill Ventus. You also have the Dream Eaters in Dream Drop Distance, who are creatures of darkness but actually serve good purposes, and then you have Riku, who is actually a perfect example of what light and darkness could be if used correctly and in harmony. Even in Kingdom Hearts 3, Marluxia told Sora that the organization doesn't want to destroy light, but just to complement it. And something tells me there might actually be merit to that statement now. Because as of right now, there is an imbalance in darkness and light, and we know the Master has a plan to do something about it. Because we know from the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross update we got a couple of months ago that the Master of Masters does have a plan to defeat the darkness. However, we don't know why that is or if it's entirely true that the Master of Masters wants to defeat the darkness. The thing with the Master of Masters is we don't really know what his whole plan is. We can't say he's a liar because we don't really know anything about him, and there's nothing that tells us that the Master of Masters would outright lie to further his goals. The only thing we know about the Master of Masters and the only thing that can really speak to his character is what he's done. And honestly, it's not a great track record. He started a Keyblade war that led to the deaths of hundreds if not thousands of young Keyblade wielders. He led the Foretellers to a conflict that ended up starting that same war, and from what we know from Remind, we know that he's the reason that Xehanort started down this path of darkness in the first place. But in that same breath, we don't know why the Master of Masters did those things because we don't really know his plans and why he would want to do any of this. The Master of Masters is likely the reason Kingdom Hearts is where it is and why all the events we've seen so far have happened, but I have a theory that could explain all of it. Part of me thinks that instead of being an evil person and doing this with some evil intent, the Master could just be a true neutral in all of this. And what I mean by that is the Master of Masters' only goal could be to restore balance to light and darkness. And in doing that, he's done things that can easily be interpreted as evil, but he isn't actually doing them to be evil. He could just be doing them as parts of a bigger goal that he has to complete to bring the balance back to light and darkness, and sees the people he's hurt as just part of a larger, greater goal. Another thing that made me think this is in Remind when he's talking to young Xehanort, and it's when he says, "I suppose letting a false light dictate the future might be a pretty lousy move." Personally, I think when he talks about a false light, he's talking about Sora. Because remember, Sora was never actually meant to have the Kingdom Key, it was supposed to be Riku. And Sora doing all the things he's done in the name of light, including breaking the rules of nature to save his friends and then having those friends go save him, could be the false light that is dictating the future of Kingdom Hearts. And when he says this, it makes me think of that same tyranny of light that I talked about earlier that also exists within the universe of Kingdom Hearts. The Master of Masters recognizes that this false light is creating an imbalance and is also attempting to overtake the darkness. The false light could also mean that people are using the teachings of light to justify their actions which would otherwise be considered malicious. And again, I go to the example of Ericus being so afraid of the darkness that he even goes so far as potentially killing Ventus in the name of light to prevent the darkness from taking over. I think the Master of Masters sees this false light and wants to do something about it because darkness is meant to complement light. They're meant to exist in harmony, and I think that the Master of Masters realizes this and wants to get rid of that false light that sees the darkness and wants to eliminate it. I think the Master of Masters only wants to correct and restore this balance while willing to resort to darker methods, and in doing that, he ended up setting the events in motion that began this process, which resorts to him doing evil things but only in the pursuit of balance. For example, Xehanort was a bad guy, but he wasn't really a bad guy, and I think they introduced this idea to us in the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 to show you that yes, this concept does exist, and with Xehanort using the darkness to achieve this balance, I think we'll see the Master of Masters do this on a larger scale, potentially using the light. And seeing the darkness as inherently evil and the light as good, it creates an imbalance, and when people begin to act on that imbalance, it throws the world into chaos, and it's the Master's job to correct that imbalance by any means necessary. So that's my theory on the Master of Masters, but enough with me. I want to know what you guys think. So let me know if you have any theories of your own down below in the comments or in the Discord server. Also, make sure you leave a like if you liked the video and share it with a friend. And most importantly, make sure you subscribe to the channel, support your boy, and turn notifications on. My name is MooseWayne1, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace out.